Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's July 13th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And really, we had a relatively strong trend up. We really had two legs up, and then a little bit of correction and pushed up, and then we really sold off pretty strongly into the afternoon. Most of that sell-off came after 2 o'clock, so um, it looked like we were going to get back in the range, but it just once we filled that gap, prices just continued to go lower for a couple more legs there. So, but again, most of that was after 2 o'clock. I did mark one trade right here, like at 2:01 or something like that. So, if there's a good setup right there at the break at 2 o'clock, you might take it. So I marked it. We'll talk about it when we get to it. But otherwise, there weren't a whole lot of trades today. Somebody asked me early on, says I just hadn't seen many trades today. There weren't a lot of trades today. There's a lot of movement, but we just didn't get any setups, and sometimes days are like that. So that's why you can't force a trade. Make sure you don't try to force trades. Just be certain that sometimes you just got to be patient, and sometimes you just got to just sit there and wait, and that's just the way it goes. So, but you can see the trend up and then the reversal and trend down. And really, if you I don't have it on here, but you'd want to measure that first range and then look for a possible measured move. Which both of those measured moves really get you to the same place. You got this one and then this one, and they both get you to the exact same place. So you can see we pushed a little higher and then it sold off. So it was pretty easy to find this target up here. And as always, wait till you get it confirmed going the other way before you start trying to enter, because most of you are going to fail if you start trying to pick these tops. That looks like a great place to pick a top right there. And look what happens. It pushes up again and then it sells off. So always wait for the confirmation. So a couple of you there's a trade in here. We'll probably find it here. I think it was right in here where some of you went long. I think it was right here where some of you went long, had a loser, and you couldn't figure out why. Most of you, though, were trying to find this channel here, and there's really just not one. I mean, you can see that fits there, but you don't find anything really to help you there. If you move up the top, it just doesn't really fit anywhere up there. It really fits the best right there. And if you did play that, the trend line doesn't help you. This doesn't really help you because you got a big overshoot and you continue to go higher. It might have helped you know that it's going to turn down up here, but really you're better off just play the sideways stuff. So I just don't see anything that looks like a channel right there. You're better off to play these shorter term ones and use these targets. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But let's back out. And early on, it looked like we were going to have a range here. I mean, you can clearly see that range, and we found this resistance up here, and this really should be right in here. I moved it up later when we bounced here a few times, but early on, you should have had it right across there. Really, you probably should have had it where I got that one right there, but that's neither here nor there at that point. They both basically play out the same, but 7 o'clock comes right in here somewhere going sideways. And notice you got this move here. You really got two legs back. There's actually another little push up right there, but you don't want to go long into that resistance. Not in the overnight, not when that looks like that's the overnight high and you've already been turned down. So just sit tight. And this is like a little failed breakout as well, but it looks like two legs back. And that's the first overshoot and the first break of this trend channel. You got enough room to get out. So I like going long right there. And you're just kind of backing this again. If you had a good enough signal bar right here, mine's just a little bit too neutral, but if you had a good signal bar there, you could go long. And of course we break out. And normally I'd tell you to ignore this breakout, but we had this little double top and then we come back and we actually tested it here. So we actually made the high there. And then, so you got a little double test on a failed breakout. And this actually broke higher and turned down a good bit away from the EMA, going sideways. So I like trading, playing that. Let me back this out. That's just so small. I like playing the engulfing bar. This actually broke higher and turned and went back below that bar. Just go short right there. You're only expecting to get a scalp because you're probably going to bounce here. It does push on down, but guess what? It fails. That's a fairly bullish bar on a second entry, but I'd want a higher low, and that doesn't come till here. And then you don't have much room back here. You might take, this is another one you may take the higher low. If you've got enough room here, I wouldn't have any problem with that trade. I'll make it green. But really, if you've got enough room there, it's just kind of questionable on my chart. But depending, your chart might be a little bit different. So if you've got enough room there, by all means, you can take that trade. Just make sure you got enough room to scalp out. And of course, it comes back up here and it turns down again. And now you've made a double test with, you're making a lower high each time. And again, it breaks higher and turns down. You could wait for this to close, but I like playing the engulfing bar and just going short on the set because it's second entry short when it breaks below that right there. Notice the new low, first entry, and then second entry short right there. And you're just looking for another leg down like that one at this point. Measure that leg and look for a measured move. And you can see we pretty much got it right there. These measured moves are invaluable, so make sure you use those. They'll alert you. I mean, they're not 100. They're like anything. They're not 100%, but they work most of the time. They at least give you a general target area. And I usually get out a little in front of them. If I'm got a runner and I'm shooting for that target, I'm going to get out a little ahead of this. So I probably would have got out right in there. And that gets you out within a point of the low, and that's pretty good. It's hard to get much better than that. And then now we've made two legs down, and then we make two legs up and make another lower high. That's a second entry short. That bar is real close to, I think you could argue that closes in the lower 1/3. It's close though, so hopefully you got a little better setup than that. But on a second entry, making another lower high, and you can tell we're making lower lows and lower highs. I like going short there. And again, you get two legs down and then it turns back up. Unfortunately, I don't have a setup here, and you don't get any correction at all till maybe right here, and that's too congestive. And then again, it's congestive. So you just don't really get a good chance to go. But notice you got the channel working up. You get a break and a couple of legs up here, and then you get two-legged correction. Again, it's a little congestive. We are a little bit away from the EMA. You might go short. Both of those are very bearish, so you might go short on that, but notice you got a few stacking up real small. That's another one you could argue for. It's just not a great setup, but notice you get two legs down and you get a nice bullish bar, and notice where you bounce right at the previous resistance, and now it's acting as support. And so I like going long there. Takes off, pulls back. Unfortunately, you don't get a setup there. It does pull back here and make a failed second entry short after two legs up, and it is right off of the key entry point right there. But again, it's just not a great setup, but it's a long way away from the EMA. I'm not crazy about it, but you do know your targets up here, two different ways to get to it. So there's a good chance we're going higher. So if you're going to enter here, that's your only chance, and it's aggressive, so I marked it green. And we're just kind of chopping along, and again, I don't see anything to go long or short here. And then you run up, and you're coming down. You could look at this right here. You're probably going to get another leg down. I think this is where most of you had your loser right here. And a lot of you were counting this as a first entry and then a second entry, which you can count it that way. You can count this double top either way. But look what just happened. You had a trend coming up. You got a break, a new high. You've pretty much reached a measured move. You've got one leg down. You only see one leg down right there. That's the whole idea behind second entries. So I would count that as a new high because that's not a leg. That's just congestion across there, and then you get a leg down. And look how we pushed right through the EMA. We pull back, and we don't really push much higher. I would expect that to fail. And that's exactly what happens, and you get your next leg down. I didn't mean to go to that screen. You get your next leg down. Just measure it, move it over, and there's your second leg down. So if you wait on that and go long, then you're okay. These second entries are powerful. I don't get a very good setup, and some of you actually, I think there was a couple of you that maybe had an inside bar. Maybe it was right here and you took it and it would have worked. I wouldn't enter that with that inside bar. This is your signal bar. It makes the low swing. And you get a higher low right here, same thing. It's too bearish, so there's no setup. But then you come back and you test that low again, and you test it yet again, and now you got plenty of room to get out. Go long right there. Runs up. And here's another thing. The trend has been up, and we still haven't quite gotten there. So you got to be careful with shorts. Especially, I believe this was the one where a few of you tried to go short in here and you got burned. There's no real setup on my chart, but I think, and then you finally get the one that does work. But again, you need to wait on a lower high. And of course, there's no signal bar on mine. So, and then we come back down here and we're still testing this lows. We can't breach it. And we get another, it's a huge bar, but you still can go along there as long as you got plenty of room to get out. It's a little breakout. Notice you got a little congestion, and that's just because you can't go any lower there. And it finally pushes through, pulls back, and I like going long right there. I really thought it would take on off. By the time it gets to here, now you got congestion again at a little higher level, so I don't think I would take that one. You could possibly take it, but look how we're just going sideways. I wouldn't take that trade. And it runs on up. If it had pushed up and pulled back here, then maybe you go long, but I just don't see it. You want to, the only reason this one is good is because we're close to the low and you still got room to get out. It's still a pretty big bar. I probably should have made it green because it's such a big bar, but there's still plenty of room there. And you move up, and of course you don't want to take that first because just like here, if you'd have taken it, you'd have got burned. Wait for more proof that prices are going the other way, and there's your lower high, and then look what happens. We had the failed break higher after the measured move. You get a lower high, a relatively bearish bar, and off it goes. And you get a failed second entry long here, but you just came off the key entry point, and there's probably a midline. I don't have this marked here. But you can see that midline that we're just kind of creeping down there. That probably looks about right. And we call this a midline for a reason. It's because it's in the middle of the two lines. You don't have it over here or over here. If it's like that, you don't have it right. It's going to be dead center, and it should match up with everything else being dead center. And you can see that prices playing both sides of that line. We drop on down. So there is a little short-term trend line right there. And if you put your midline in there, we're not quite there. I just still think it's a little dangerous to go short right there. It's another one you could argue for to be green. I want to see it closer to the EMA than that. Because too many times those trades will fail like that. Drops on down. You finally get a break here. Look what happens. You make that high, you come back, you test it once, you test it twice. You really could have gone short there, but again, that's a higher high. I liked waiting on the double top or the lower high, but you could argue for that one because you got a double test there. But you see prices came back and they could have easily ticked one more tick higher. So you're almost always better off to wait on the lower high. Or if you're going long off one of those, the higher low. I'll give that one a green. And then we drop on down again. And now we've got the break and a new low in place on this two-tiered channel here. So you just don't want to be entering down in here. You do end up with another trend line here, but you're just too far away from the EMA. You're really stuck between another trend line. And notice this, though. These are the exact same angle. It just kind of scooted over a little bit. And continues to work on down. And you possibly could have entered some of the here or here. They're real aggressive trades, but actually we'll do this. Like I said, they're really aggressive because you're just getting too far away from the EMA. But that is we've had a pretty strong trend down, but you've already had your break and a new low in place. So every new push down becomes more and more likely that it's going to reverse like it did right here. And notice that even though you got another little bit of a channel working here, there's no overshoot, there's no break and new low or any of that. It just reverses. And really all you do is you get another two-legged correction here. And it turns down again. And again, there's a lower high right here that you possibly could have taken as well. But you're better off to wait and make sure you're going to get a reversal. So when it shoots through and pulls back, now you got a failed second entry on a true reversal pattern. So that's the better place to enter. And look at it go. Because there's been no break of this. So that's your first break, and on this second entry, it might run up there and stop you out. But when it fails, when it turns down, and the failure is when it is one tick below that bar right there, because your second entry triggered right here. And yes, make sure you get this. Yes, by the rules, it's 4 ticks. It has to turn down before it gets a scalp. But it's still, with all the volatility, the bars are bigger. So just like the 8-tick stop rule is not really working right now, the rules on these, if it looks like something and it acts like something, it's going to get the same result. That's a failure to the upside because people are looking for prices to go higher. And all these people that have gotten long and gotten out right here realize the market's going lower again. And look, that's your evidence that it was a trap. That's why that shot down real quickly like that, because everybody has their safety stops in there. They realize when it turns down there, I'm wrong. So I got to get the heck out. And that's why it does that. That's your evidence. And that's the same thing that happened here. Look how it dropped real fast. And the ones that got in here or didn't get out yet, when it turns down again, they know I got to get out of this thing. And it just kept going lower and lower and lower. And again, this is after 2, but it's just like, I think that's like 201 or something. So a good setup like that, you'd be all right to take that at 201. Needs to be a really good trade though. And so that was it for today. It's kind of what looked like was going to be a range day. Really sold off late in the afternoon. We've got that a little bit lately. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't. If you're managing a runner after 2 o'clock, by all means, continue to manage it. Just don't enter any new trades, because if you get it wrong in here, you don't have time to make it back up, and you're going to get kicked out around 3 o'clock regardless, even though it continues to trade until 3:15 or whatever. So make sure most of your brokers are going to kick you out at 3 or maybe even a few minutes before. It depends on what your broker's rules are. I don't like hanging around to find out, because I don't want to get kicked out of a trade unless it's way into my favor. Then I don't care. And so you may ride one into the kick out period if if you got a good runner going. But just don't take any new trades this late in the day. And somebody did ask me that question. They misunderstood. The price action is definitely more orderly in the morning. But the price action still works exactly the same in the afternoon as it does in the morning. It's just there's a few reasons I don't like trading after 2. The main reason is you don't have time to make up a loss, and you'll get exaggerated moves like this where you may not get as many of those in the morning hours. The volume tends to get a little thinner, and then also right before 3 o'clock, everybody has to exit, so the market does some odd things as people square up. Since there's so many people getting short here, there has to be a little bit of buying as people exit and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. So there's the price action works 24 hours, 7 days a week. So don't worry about that. The price action is always there and always works. Although I will say it's not quite as orderly, if that makes sense. You get a little few more exaggerated moves and things like that after 2 o'clock. But there's no reason you couldn't trade this, especially if you're watching the price action and managing a runner. So hope that's clear. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.